American strength is used for many purposes. American strength acts as a deterrent to bad actors around the globe. American strength gives us flexibility on how to respond to threats to our interests. American strength is a comfort and assurance to our allies and friends. When America's strength is absent, our fortunes dim. We become hostages to world events and lesser nations, and our influence and credibility wanes. America is very weak under Joe Biden and the anti-American left. But as usual, the left is trying to scapegoat other folks for their incompetence. Joe Biden, not Tucker Carlson, is an agent of Russia. We make that case in tonight's preamble. Left-wingers have seized on recent comments uttered by Tucker Carlson to suggest that Tucker is an agent of Russia. Now, keep in mind, they said this of President Trump and all of his supporters as well. It's insane. It's ludicrous. But as with all things on the left, they are often guilty of the very misdeeds they accuse others. Being a tool of Russia is merely the latest example. I'll illustrate that in a moment. Let's deal with the accusations being leveled at Carlson. The left-wing loons at MSNBS, they are the latest to jump all over Tucker as being an agent of Mother Russia. Now, they cite this as proof. Watch.
Why are the Russians so upset? Why are we moving towards some kind of conflict? Well, there's one reason. Over a number of different administrations, the United States government has pushed Ukraine to join NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. Imagine if Mexico fell under the direct military control of China. We would see that as a threat, of course. There'd be no reason for that. Well, that's how Russia views NATO control of Ukraine, and why wouldn't they? We don't get anything out of pushing Ukraine into NATO, so why are we doing this?
Okay, well, Tucker, is he right? No, I think he's dead wrong. But conservatives and libertarians who have the best interest of America at heart can earnestly disagree without labeling the other an agent of a foreign power or a warmonger, especially when real and verifiable actions taken by enemies of America inside the United States give us all a clear understanding of what siding with America's enemies looks like. All you got to do is look at the Democrat Party. But here is why I earnestly disagree with Tucker's assessment. Where it is true that some members of NATO have toyed with the idea of allowing Ukraine to join the alliance, it's far from a foregone conclusion. The NATO alliance was set up to counter Soviet Union aggression. And a man who very much believes in Russian domination, a former KGB agent, Vladimir Putin, he's the guy calling the shots today in Russia. Vladimir Putin hates the United States. He has since the fall of the Soviet Union. He rightly blames us for showing that communism doesn't work. He blames us for the fall of his evil empire. He blames us for an explosion of freedom and celebration that broke out across Europe as they celebrated the fall of an empire that loomed like a left-wing cancer over the European continent for over 40 years. Now, I think Tucker comparing the United States not wanting a known enemy with stated malign activity towards our country like China exerting influence over Mexico is a far cry from why Putin doesn't want the United States and NATO to expand influence over its former republics. Putin is trying to rebuild the former Soviet empire, and he sees NATO as a major impediment to doing that. The rebuilding of that evil empire hardly compares to America wanting to remain free. Putting the West and totalitarian powers like China on the same playing field doesn't pass the smell test with me. Putin has designs on Ukraine for a myriad reasons, chief among them helping exert his energy dominance over Europe, using it as a bludgeon to bend Europe away from the United States' influence, and in so doing, putting Europe under Putin's thumb. That's bad news for the United States and the free people of Europe. But there's another component to all of this. We gave our word. When the Soviet Union fell, large numbers of missiles and nuclear weapons infrastructure were located in Ukraine. In fact, for a while there, Ukraine had the third most powerful nuclear force in the world. The new republic didn't have the economic prowess or the expertise to handle a nuclear program of that size, yet they wanted the nukes to deter Russia from ever having designs on their territory again. So a compromise was brokered. In return for Ukraine giving up its nukes, Russia, the UK, the United States, and Ukraine entered into the Budapest Memorandum on security assurances in 1994. The parties promised Ukraine their independence and sovereignty would be respected, as well as its borders. Everyone understood that this was an American promise to deter Russia from seeking to re-annex Ukraine. Lastly, Russia is allied with another American enemy, China. This is something that Tucker has chosen to ignore or disregard as unimportant. But let me assure you, it's highly important. Russia, China, and Iran have all been colluding to take down the United States. They have conducted joint military exercises, practicing the killing of Americans. Countries that don't pose a threat don't practice killing your people the way China, Russia, and Iran do. These nations, by their actions, are threats to the United States, and we should do nothing that benefits them, as any benefit will be used against us in the future. But I want to be plain. Simply because Tucker and I see the threat that Russia poses differently doesn't make me a warmonger or Tucker an agent of Russia. Now, if you want to see a group of people allied with America's enemies, we need to look no further than Joe Biden and his Socialist Party. Newsmax just reported that Joe Biden freed up some money so that the Iranians could have their vote restored in the United Nations. Biden's Foreigners First policy shows us that Biden and his team work to the benefit of all of America's enemies, including the #1 state sponsor of terrorism. As we reported on extensively, upon election, Joe Biden went to work to kill American energy and American energy jobs while he greenlighted Russia's energy project like the Nord Stream 2, creating wealth and jobs in Mother Russia. Biden likely did this as a bribe. Putin saw it for what it was: weakness and 100% capitulation. Then Biden, in the ultimate hat tip to his buddies in the Kremlin, gave the thumbs up to a minor incursion from Russian forces into Ukraine, all but paving the way for war to break out in Eastern Europe. Conservatives and our libertarian cousins, we're going to disagree on certain things, but we can do so knowing that each of us is trying to keep the torch of liberty alight. Our Socialist Democrat enemies, Joe Biden's word, not mine, they have no such altruistic views or actions. I think America needs to do something about Vladimir Putin's aggression. Putin is an enemy who hates the United States. He is practicing killing our people. Every acquisition of energy prowess he gains finances another bullet to fire at America later on down the line. I also don't trust Joe Biden to run a popsicle stand, much less responsibly use American military power to deter Russia. With Joe Biden at the helm, we risk the world devolving into World War III. We have no good choices here because we are weak and because Socialist Democrats have been busy, well, making their political opponents the enemy rather than being focused on America's real enemies. I can't tell you how much I can't stand not having any choices. The truth is, it shouldn't have been this way. Tucker Carlson isn't the agent of Russia you left-wing loons are looking for. For that, you need only look in the mirror. It is you and your politicians who have financed Russia's military and economy by crippling America's energy production and bolstering Russia's. It is you, left-wingers, who have greenlighted Putin's aggression against a U.S. ally, Ukraine. And it is you who have weakened our unity and financial prowess at home. Now, this is nothing new. The American left has always sided with America's enemies. This time, though, Americans should not let them escape culpability for doing this. I just hope there are leaders in Europe and in NATO who are better suited to make rational decisions because, as Joe Biden's Afghan withdrawal clearly showed, politicians and generals here have absolutely no clue.
After the last election, liberty-minded Americans are facing a difficult question. What do we do now? We do have a plan to stop them. This is the only plan that bypasses Biden and Congress to save the republic. Sign the petition at conventionofstates.com.